Working as part of the Inquire Learning Trust, I was really lucky that the CEO at the time, Ronnie Woods, worked very closely with the CLPE, and he invited them into a meeting of all the principals, and they introduced what the power of reading would be to us. And on that day, I knew this was what we'd been looking for. We were a school that had gone through quite a lot of change. Our results were not great. We were a school that I referred to ourselves as a sweetie shop. We were taking everything off the shelf we thought it would help the children to improve their reading, their writing in all aspects, and nothing was working. And something on that day just really sang to me, the fact that it was book-centred, it was child-centred, it was absolutely steeped in research, which I'd also read through with the Scarborough Reading Rope and all of, the power of reading pedagogies that are there. So at that point, I invested in 2 of my leaders attending the 4-day programme throughout that training, and every time they came back, they were so enthused. They were literally bouncing, and we straight away started to make small changes. And then the power of reading process of the sequences and the support for teaching, the teaching approaches, the pedagogy, it just was a process that was so beautiful to watch, where the teachers and the children together became to love reading. And now reading is at the core of everything that we do. Books are our world, they are the heartbeat of our school.
5 years ago when I was in NQT, I was quite nervous teaching English. It was probably the one subject that I wasn't sure about, and the CLPE and the sequences and all the support with regards to CPT that they run on a regular basis really improved my subject knowledge and allowed me to effectively teach children from quite a deprived demographic in a way that actually was meaningful to them. Obviously not everybody teaches in such a deprived demographic, however, I do believe the CLPE sequences and all of the resources they provide allow you to ensure effective teaching and high quality teaching in every classroom. And as a school, we've embraced it. And like I say, we are an associate school. Every member of staff is totally embracing the CLPE sequences and resources, and whole ethos of the school is now CLPE within English. And we're seeing such a great transfer of skills across EYFS, Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, that I can't be more proud of us as a staff, that we've really took this on board and work really hard with it, and the results are showing.
What stands out about the power of reading is not only the fact that it is very clearly designed with real research and understanding underneath of where child development comes from. It's not just something where people have seen a process work and it's been then put into a document and then try this, we'll try this, try this. We get lots of that. Principals will know we get lots of advice coming from different places. It doesn't just jump on every bandwagon. It is really core central to what a child needs to make those small steps in learning. So this is where, when you really start using it, yes, you get the wonder of reading, and yes, the children become amazing readers and they comprehend and they enjoy books, but teachers become real experts in reading and understanding of the process. So through using the reading and writing scales, they are able to really identify those tiny steps that children need to make each time. So if a child's 7 and still unable to read, it's not like, oh, okay, how do we shoehorn you into the 7-year-old teaching sequence. We look at what is missing within that developmental stages, not age stages, and then you're able to really bespokely teach them so that they can access the lessons. They don't feel that they're not achieving, and then that really process really is great and the children become readers.
So how it's enhanced my knowledge, my subject knowledge of English is I have an absolute love of English, definitely more so now with the power of reading, because you get completely immersed in the text. So you're not just reading through a story. We really focus on each page, looking really closely at illustrations. I know now that the impact it has on children's vocabulary, their personal, social, and emotional development, because we might use a freeze frame. So how is that character feeling at the moment? How would you feel if you were in that position? And the children absolutely love it. So using that knowledge, I can then adapt it to other situations in our circle time activities that we do. It's enhanced my knowledge greatly, definitely.
When you start allowing your children to be, not children, teachers, teachers to be really expert in an area rather than you must teach this, you must teach that, then their investment is greater because they have a true understanding of why things are happening. It's not just a process. In this school, this is a process we follow. It's not that. In this school, we teach this way because. And they understand those small steps in development. They understand the brain. They understand why we do things, why we, especially for our children, we must use windows and mirrors, because if we don't reflect realities in different ways to them, then who will? You know, they need to be able to do all those. And that's not just about reading, it's about the whole holistic child. So that understanding from my staff has been great because it transfers to every aspect of the teaching and learning that they produce. So if it's a history lesson, they're thinking about the teaching sequences for power of reading, they're thinking about those teaching approaches. How can that help me within this history session to really get the children to understand? So it's even bigger than just the power of reading. It crosses all spectrums.
The texts and sequences in regards to talk for my children have really had probably the biggest impact. I've noticed that I have some of the more shy or maybe withdrawn members of the class have actually started to come out of their shells, maybe relate to the characters involved. We've got lots of different texts in there, so reflecting realities, picture books, more novel style texts that actually suit the age range. And it's quite nice that the core books that are related to each year group, the characters in them are of their age. So they relate to the characters really well, and they can sort of see themselves through their eyes and sort of take footsteps from them really. With regards to writing, I've noticed a big improvement in writing because the children are engaged in the text. They understand what's going on in the story and they relate to the characters, which means they've got more of a authorial voice, and it improves their general interest in writing and reading across the board. Our Reading for Pleasure scheme with regards to help from the CLPE has gone through the roof. We've seen children who were very reluctant readers actually becoming some of probably our most advanced readers in the class within that space of a year.
So the power of reading in terms of subject knowledge has allowed me to have a bigger toolkit for our children. I've now got more resources and more to bring to getting that love of reading for our children, which comes through with everything that the power of reading brings.
So I was lucky enough to go on the Power of Reading course, and I was quite early on in my career then. I'd done a year's teaching at a different school, and it ignited a real passion in me for English overall and reading, and you know, making sure that children see themselves represented in lots of different ways. That's really, really important for us. And there's windows and mirrors analogy, where we want to make sure that our children can see not just themselves and their own reality, but the reality of other people as well. And that's what really came through for me in terms of the power of reading. In this day, lots of children are wanting to use their iPads and using the internet a lot more, but actually it's the power of a book. And it's the power of the words on the page and the vocab that the children are getting out of it. And we've seen a massive increase in the vocabulary the children are now using and producing, not just in the daily talk with each other, but also in their writing now, which is really phenomenal.
There is a name of research that basically say our children have a lower life expectancy just based on where they are from. It was a study that compared children in Stockton-on-Tees to children that were born and raised in Cambridge, and it was actually that the children from Stockton would live 13 years less than children raised in Cambridge just based on their literacy proficiency level, which was something brought up in the Power of Pictures and actually made me really think English is a core subject that we really need to focus on in schools and build that reading for pleasure and general literacy status.
The research has been done for us. We know why we're implementing these things. You've got such a wide bank of resources for us to use along with the teaching sequences. So Conscience Alley, Roll on the Walls, all of those different teaching styles that can help all of the children kind of be on board with the books and be more engaged with the writing. And then because we're doing all of that vocabulary rich work all of the time together, when it comes to writing, it's really easy for them to just write.
So the impact the power of reading has had on my children is the engagement. The engagement is huge now. Every child is invested in every book that we do. There is so much that we can pull out of each page that each child is desperate to read the next part. Writing is now exactly where we want it to be because the children want to write based on the fact that they're so invested in every story, and that's all through everything that the planning allows us to bring.
I think there's a lot of our children that have really benefited from the power of reading, especially I can think of a certain boy who was really reluctant to come into nursery to begin with, really reluctant to come and join in with any kind of circle time activities. So we had puppets that were characters in the book as well that we would slowly introduce him to, and slowly coming round showing him pictures of the pages, joining in with repeated refrains. And I think the excitement of the other children in the class through every page that we were reading really pulled him in, and thankfully he's taken part in all of those sessions now as well.
Today when we were going to write, the boys all cheered that they were going to write, so obviously it has had like a massive impact. They're all engaged, they want to write. When we write, they're excited because they've had all of the build up to writing and it's become natural, so when we actually get words onto paper they're so excited to do it.
One child that the power of reading has really had a positive impact on is a particular child who has got specific SEND needs. He finds it difficult to engage in classroom life. He has a one-to-one, he spends some times away from the class, but the power of reading has really engaged him. It's allowed him to immerse himself back into the classroom environment. He joins in with everything that we do, and he's now able to answer questions and get involved in the text in the same way as his peers do. I would advise all Key Stage 1 teachers to fully immerse themselves in it, give total fidelity to the scheme because it works. The teaching sequence has had such a positive impact on the way that I teach English that the results speak for themselves.
My teachers, they have a support network, so because we are a power of reading school, we access everything that's there, we read everything that's there, they support each other, they also ring, email, everything the CLPE, and if there's a question we've got, it's answered in a heartbeat. The training we have access to is fantastic. Now that the training's online as well, because obviously being in North East and the mothership, as we call it, the base is in London, we can't send our staff there, but we feel really connected now through those meetings. The power of reading, I have to say to any leaders, principals, CEOs of trusts, whatever, you have to go and investigate it. You have to go and find out what it's about. I would be wary of listening to where people have had a bit of power reading training and pick up little bits and bobs, because that's not what it's about. It's about everyone who works with the CLPE, who really invests in it, becomes the centre of what you do in your school to enable the children to learn in all areas of their education. It really is fidelity to the programme. It's fidelity, it's that commitment to the process, because it isn't just another thing off a shelf. It isn't a scheme of work. It is an embodiment of how children can really progress and love learning and life and society and everything around them within the use of books. And I just couldn't recommend it highly enough. I can't say enough that this investment is 100% worth it for the teachers and definitely the children.